I have a kind of trivial pursuits question, okay, a church one. When is the second Sunday the first Sunday? When is the second Sunday the first Sunday? Nobody will get it. Today! This is the second Sunday of Ordinary Time, but it's actually the first Sunday because the Ordinary Time starts on a Monday. And so this is the first Sunday, but because it would be very confusing to say the first Sunday, but the second week, it just becomes the second Sunday. Just thought I'd share that with you. I started listening to the scriptures and reading them for today on Monday. I listen to them audibly and I catch other things. And on Wednesday, I'm in the car driving and I hear this, I don't know if it was a commercial or what it was, but the person on the radio said that we should go to Syria. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and it is so historically important. It was the cradle of civilization, and that the Silk trade route went through Syria, so north, south, east, west met there. It was a huge area of commerce, and it developed that region of the world. But I said, go to Syria? It's at war. It's a mess. I recalled that I had read of so many people who were refugees, and I looked it up on the internet and found the number. They estimate 5 million Syrians are now in 7 or 8 other cities around the world, and probably many more, but major ones. 5 million people have been driven from their homes, driven from their own land. The suffering is unimaginable for 5 million people. So I said, no, I got to check this out. I cannot understand. So I went to the internet. Now, I can do this. You can't, okay? Because I'm doing work here. So I put into the browser, prettiest places in Syria. I was aware of it, like Aleppo. About 3 years ago, I saw beautiful pictures of Aleppo. It's really this ancient site, carved into the mountain. It's just beautiful. But ISIS and terrorists went and defaced it and just tried to destroy part of it. It's just a mess. So I'm thinking, what are they saying? So the first thing that popped up when I put it in my browser was 10 best places to visit in Syria, written in 2019. So I said, oh my God. So I browsed down a little further, and usually there's a whole bunch of these before you get to this, but right under this first article, 10 best places, it says, people also ask, all in capital, people also ask, and then they give you these categories or areas. The first one that people also ask is Syria safe to visit? And I said, check it out. So I opened it with this little dedo. I'm going to do it right now. And this is what it said. Do not travel to Syria due to terrorism, civil unrest, and armed conflict. No part of Syria is safe from violence. ... U.S. citizens in Syria who seek consular services should try to quickly and safely leave the country and contact a U.S. embassy or consulate in a neighboring country, if possible. Well, that told me everything I needed to know. But I thought to myself, you know, there are Catholics in Syria, and they would have these scriptures today. And I'm wondering if they were encouraged by them, because we have today 4 genres in our scriptures. We have a prophetic writing, the first one, and then we have a psalm, and then we have a second reading, it's a letter, and then the fourth reading is a narrative, only in John, but a narrative story. So in this prophetic literature, and I'm going to update it a little bit, God says in this passage through the prophet Isaiah, oh no, you won't shut me up, you won't make me be silent, I'm going to tell you. Israel, you have been disgusted and a dump, and you have been rejected by everyone. They called your land desolate. But I'm not going to say that. You're going to be my betrothed. I'm going to make you famous to all the nations. And God tells Israel, tells Jerusalem, get ready, because promises are going to come true in you. Now, the Christians who are in Jerusalem today reading this passage must be saying, hello, look at our country. It's amazing. Look at Jerusalem. Look at the wealth. Look at the power. Look at our standing. So I wonder if Syria would read this today and say, God, you could do it. You did it to Jerusalem. Restore us. Bring us back. Help us. Heal us. I imagine it's a very encouraging word to Syrians, and they need a lot of encouragement. Then we read this letter written by Paul to the Corinthians. And I'm guessing that the community was quite fractured, even though it was quite talented. Lots of gifts were evident. But what seemed to be happening is that people were in competition. Well, we can do that. Yeah, but we can do this. Yeah, but we do more than you, and we're better than you. And Paul writes this letter, and read very beautifully, but I have to update it because I think the tone was something like this. All right, knock it off. Knock it off. You're like a bunch of children in the classroom. He's better, she's better. No, I am. No, you are. Stop it. Everybody has gifts. You all have gifts. And one gift is not better than the other. He will say later in the same letter, if the eye is not the ear is not the foot is not the hand. And if you had no hand, it had no foot, you couldn't walk. So don't say the eye is better than the foot. It depends. If you're walking, you need the foot. All the gifts are there. All of the gifts are important. And so I think clearly in this letter, it's kind of chastising the people. Stop comparing and competing and putting each other down, because not only do you all have gifts and they're all important, you didn't make the gift. God did. God's Spirit put it in you. And the Spirit has a clear intention that all the gifts would be used and all the gifts would become one. And later Paul will say, because you're the body of Christ and every part of the body is important. Then we get this narrative story from John's Gospel, and it's kind of weird. It's the second chapter, right after the prologue. The other Gospels, they tell a story of healing or casting out a demon, but this puts Jesus at a wedding feast in Cana. Only John does this. And there's an interesting conversation that takes place. It mentions that Mary's there, and also Jesus and some of the apostles. And Mary happens to notice something. Now, you have to appreciate wedding feasts were huge occasions. It wasn't one day. It was days and days and days. Celebration. It was a community event. The whole town would gather. This was really important. And you had to be prepared. And not having enough wine, in case you're not a wine drinker, let's make you a coffee drinker. Can you imagine you went away a couple days, you come back and you assume that there are coffee beans for you to grind, and you go down to the cabinet, you open it up and the container's empty. What? There's no coffee. Oh my God, there's no coffee. That's the spirit of this. But Mary spies this. Oops, they're running out of wine. So she says to her very talented son, who has all kinds of skills, say miraculous skills, if you will. She says, son, Jesus, they're running low on wine. And this is his response. Woman, how does this concern me? My hour has not come. Now, that sounds pretty cold, but it is an expression. It's a way that they spoke. Woman, that's how they would address a woman. Woman, how does this concern of yours concern me? My hour has not come. Now, the hour of Jesus in John refers to his passion, death, and resurrection. It comes up constantly. His hour, the hour. The hour was coming. The hour was about to come. And I'm sure that there's a reference to that hour, the coming passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But also, it sounds like he's saying, well, I'm not ready for this. I wasn't prepared for this. And yet, immediately after that, Mary says, after Jesus says that, my hour has not come. Kind of like, forget it, I'm not doing it. Do whatever he tells you. That's what she says, do whatever he tells you. So he says immediately afterward, go fill up these 6 jars. Now these were like 20 to 30 gallon huge things that they used to wash the feet of travelers. The Jews they obsessed over cleanliness. And they had to have washed everybody's feet when they came in the house. The servants did. So Jesus says, fill them up. But he doesn't just say fill them up. He says, fill them to the brim. Now, in case some of you don't know what that means, this is the brim. It is filled to the top. It cannot even take one more drop, and if you dare put one more drop in it, it'll spill over. Fill it to the brim, all of them. And then ladle out some and take it to the steward who's in charge of the wine. So they do. The steward doesn't know where it came from, but the servants do. They saw and heard all of this. And he says, OMG, what is this? Nobody serves the best wine last. They serve it first. And then after people are a little inebriated, after they're a little happy, then you start serving the junk. But you've done the opposite here. What is this? You serve the junk first, and now that people are a little high, now you start serving the very best. Wow, what is this? And it says that this was that Jesus showed through this sign, and John doesn't talk about miracles, he talks about signs, and get this, 7 of them. You know what that means? The 7 signs, and this is the first one. But this sign at a wedding feast, a celebration of life, the beginning of love for this couple, a celebration of the whole town. The wine was running low and a disaster was looming, but Mary, Jesus, saves the day. I hear in these scriptures something wonderful, and what a way to start the first Sunday, actually the second Sunday of Ordinary Time. What a way to start it. We hear a prophecy about believing that from our worst, eventually will come our best. We hear about being gifted people and having the opportunity to share our gifts. And if we share our gifts, so much will blossom for us. And then we hear that even in our lack and our want, that Jesus can come along and cause something to change if we just listen to him. So I propose to you that a good exercise for this week would be to listen to Jesus. And it might go something like this. You know, as any of us get older, I always talk like this now because I'm getting older, good Lord. But as we get older, aches and pains, money problems, relationship problems, all kinds of stuff. Every morning I get up and go down to get the paper, and I tell you, every bone in my body hurts. Every single bone. And I walk down those stairs and I say, Lord, have mercy. Oh, Jesus, get me through this day. Oh, my God. Out loud, like a crazy man. I'm saying this as I'm walking down the hallway. Oh, it takes me about 45 minutes for it start to come together. About 45 minutes. But I believe that Jesus wants us to come to him. And we should speak to Jesus our needs, our wants, our hopes, talk about our fears, talk about our confusion, talk about our sin, talk about our stubbornness, talk about not wanting to be open, talk about a need for a change of heart and change of mind. Talk about it all. And then say those dreadful words. What do you think, Jesus? What do you want? What do you want to tell me? You know, if we're honest and if we're listening deep in our spirit, we know what he'll tell us. I can't stand Rocio. It's just an example. Can't stand Rocio. Neither can her brothers. I can't stand her. She's a witch. She's so mean. She's nasty. Terrible sense of humor, etc., etc., etc. Jesus, what do you think about that? Is there anything you want to tell me? What's he going to tell me?
Get over it.
Get over it? Maybe, Perry, you need to forgive her. Perry, start noticing her gifts. Perry, quit putting her down. Start appreciating her. The list goes on. We know what we should do. We know what we got to do. We know what God expects and wants for us. Not from us like he needs it. He knows we need it. Because if I'm going to walk through my life, whether it's Rocio or anyone else, putting them down and seeing them as less and rejecting their giftedness and being stupid in my relationship with them, my God wants a lot more from me. Mary would say, do whatever he tells you. Do whatever he tells you. Today is about hearing that message. And if you like it put this way, let Mary speak on our behalf. Do whatever Jesus tells you. But that means we got to listen. We got to open up to his word.